Diggs Nation.
All right, what's up, world? We got another episode of Peanut Butter Magic. Tonight we are talking about growth. Talking about growth with yourself, with your art, everything that goes into releasing your product. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's the Peanut Butter Magic Show. It's the Peanut Butter Magic Show.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Peanut Butter Magic, the DIY show for entertainers where we do everything ourselves.
Yeah.
What's up, Sway? How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How about you, man?
Oh, man, I'm doing wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
How's everything going on in Tennessee? I heard we've got football winnings on all sides this year.
Man, it's crazy. University of Tennessee is like kicking buttocks. and then and then the Titans are trying to rally around again. I'm missing the game right now. The game is actually on. Malik Willis had his first start today too. So yeah. I ain't happy.
We'll try to keep this episode short then so we can get the game back on.
Very good. Very good.
I am proud of the Volunteers, though, man. Like, growing up, everybody, growing up in Tennessee, everyone is like, man, Alabama sucks. I hate Alabama. And it's like, well, when's the last time y'all beat them? Man, I don't want to talk about that. So now this year, they finally got it on them. Then they came up here to Kentucky and whooped some ass. So
Ooh, it was brutal. It was brutal. Just brutal, man.
I'm proud of them, man. I'm glad.
Me too. It's like I don't understand how you can be from a state and not root for the teams from that state. I don't understand. I just don't. And I don't get how a lot of people here in Tennessee root for like Alabama.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I can see you being a fan, but over your home team? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I always like Vanderbilt over the Vols just because they were closer.
Yeah.
I could go to those games.
And they were the underdogs in pretty much everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, Vandy's like SEC's version of an Ivy League school, I guess.
Right.
So, go Commodores.
Well, speaking of the Commodores.
Yeah, once, twice, three times a lady.
What he said. Today I want to talk about growth, man, because I know, like, from the first time you and I worked together to where we are today, like, we've both grown a lot. Like, our careers have evolved. Our expectations have grown, and the people that we surround ourselves with, and although some of them are still the same people from the beginning, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of that hasn't changed. The family is stuck together for the most part, which is great. But like, expanding outside of our inner circle, some of these heavy hitters, or some of these people that we're messing with, are heavy hitters. Like, they're doing big things, and I've just been seeing, coming from our camp, the just growth in general, man. I was looking back at some of the old videos that we produced back in the day, some of the songs that were coming out, and just listening to what's out now, and the quality in them has greatly improved. And I just wanted to, I guess, kind of brag on ourselves a little bit and kind of talk about that journey that we've gone through,
Dig that. I can get with it. I personally, definitely seen and felt the growth. You know what I mean? I was having this conversation with, I want to say it was my daughter. No, I think it was Luke Jones. I was talking to Luke Jones on the phone, but I was in my car. And we were talking about, some of the artists that he's worked with and how some of them rely on other people to make their projects happen. And I was telling him how when I got started, I had a computer with 10 gigabytes of hard disk space total.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and that's before the external hard drives and and SSD drives and all of those things way before that, and how my first pair of studio monitors were 2 old car speakers that I had found in a closet. You know what I mean? My first mic stand was a broomstick. You know what I mean? You know, those types of things, and I made them records. You know what I mean?
Right.
So to go from that until now, and even with like Luke, when we got started, he was coming to my house to cut his records. Now he's kind of doing his own thing as far as that's concerned, you know, with getting his records done and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. It's been a long journey just for you and I. You know, the time that we've spent together. When I met you, you didn't even have a camera.
Nope.
You know what I mean? Didn't even have a camera, but you had the desire to want to do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my first camera that I got, I remember my dad got it for me for my birthday because we had shot Passing Me By.
Yeah.
And I brought the video home, and we had a cameraman for that shoot, and I brought that video home, and I was like, check this out. And my parents looked at it. I said, I need to get my own camera. And so for my birthday, my dad bought me a camcorder. It was a small one, and it wasn't a big professional video, but he was like, learn how to shoot on that, and then you'll be able to handle one of those by yourself.
Yeah.
And now I've got this fancy camera over here. We're good.
Absolutely.
It's come a long way.
You know, and I remember when you told me that you were going to go to film school, or you were going to go into the film program at the college where you were attending.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of when I knew that, you know, you were going to be the real deal. Because how many people do you know take a risk like that? You know, and I'm sure there's thousands and thousands and thousands, but show business is very it's very roll of the dice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to go in that way, it was a big deal for me. You know, it showed me your level of commitment. So I was like, okay, let's see, you know, the great things that Brandon gets from college. So it just that I think that was one of the pivotal moments in our relationship was when that happened. I knew then that you weren't gonna play with it.
Yeah.
You know, what brought on that decision to want to do that?
When I got out of high school, everyone asked that question, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? Mm-hmm. And I knew that I wanted to write for screen, but my ambitions weren't as strong as they are now. Yeah. And so I was just trying to brainstorm what I could possibly do. And someone said, well, you like commercials. Why don't you write commercials? And I said, I could do commercials. Mm-hmm. And I went to school for it, and just a community college just to get started and figure out what I'm going to do. And I enrolled in the broadcasting program there. Mm-hmm. And one of the professors that I had my first year at school, I was telling her what I wanted. And she was like, well, I don't think broadcasting is for you. I think you should go to MTSU and enroll in their video production program. I guess that's still broadcasting, but she said, I don't think the commercial side of it is the direction that you want to go. I think you want to go into something much larger than that. And I think you should aim for it. And I ended up not like sticking with it for a while. And then when I finally met you guys and we shot some music videos and I got some real hands-on experience, I was like, you know what? She's right. I need to go for it. This is exactly what I want to do with my life. And I went in full time.
Now, what was your experience like when you got to MTSU? What was that journey like?
It was like going on vacation and you left your map at home. Because, you know, we're out in Tennessee, and I feel like the video programs out here they can give you the tools that you need, but there's a lot of information that you don't really get while you're there. So they teach you the basics, at least the program that I went through. I learned the basics, and the rest of it's kind of up to you. And then when I would say, okay, well, how do I take this and apply it? the answer was, well, I don't know. You got to figure that out. And I have no idea how to figure that out. I work at a grocery store
Right.
to pay my bills. I rely on you to teach me these steps. And we would get people that would come to the school, and they're in the, they're like the director who shot some of Taylor Swift's early music videos. He came into the school and he gave us like his experience, and he kind of talked about what he did and how the videos worked. And we're seeing, him describe all these things that we're learning in class, and he's applying it and getting paid for it. And it's like, man, this is really possible. Awesome. And then he leaves, right? And then we go back into class, and then we learn something else. And then you go out into the real world, and even though you see people that are in the profession, I got to meet people that are in the profession, nobody cares. They don't even look at your application. And I just felt like I'm seeing it. I know it's there. I can see that there is something at the end of the road, but there's no road, and I can't figure out how to get there. And nobody seems to want to answer that question. You just got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so the experience was very enlightening, but also lost at the same time.
And I've worked with several people that have gone through that program also. And it's been my experience that they all have that same struggle.
Yeah.
A lot of them wind up not even doing anything in film at all, because from what I've seen, I don't know this to be true, but from my observation, it's like they don't set them up with the tools to be successful past that.
No.
I worked at a radio station with this kid, and he went through the broadcasting part of it, but he wanted to do television broadcasting. The radio thing was just a stepping stone for him to get some experience, for him to go on to the next level, as far as that's concerned. And respectfully, he wasn't the greatest at broadcasting. He had a great broadcaster's voice. He spoke like, somebody that would be on the local news delivering the sports. But he didn't have the tools to take it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Now the kid sells cars. Another one of the guys that I worked with just so happened to have gotten a job right out of the gate, right as soon as he left out of school. He got lucky, but it took him, a long time to branch off and do something else past the TV gig.
Mm-hmm.
And even when he got there, he was just kind of flying by the seat of his pants. He relying on me to put things together.
Yeah.
I looked at it as maybe they teach you how to point and shoot. You know what I mean? Get the best camera angle, figure out how to make your packages look good. But to submit the packages somewhere else, there was no rule book or game plan for that.
Right.
That's just what I saw. So me, I got the game just being in the Nashville streets, very young, as a young musician, and just kind of going out. Now, granted, I've always had a little bit of luck on my side. Even as a youngster, my first business manager ever worked at the urban radio station. So I had access to a lot of things that a lot of the artists back then coming up didn't have access to right out of the gate. You know what I mean? To where I can get the exposure, get my records heard, be in front of the right people, do some of the right things and stuff like that. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have, I probably wouldn't be doing it how I do it today. Because a lot of these kids, they don't get a blueprint. Right? They don't. And that's not really one, but you still probably need somebody to kind of point you in the direction that you need to go in to get the type of growth that you're looking for.
Sure. Well, and in the video world, it's very much just go out and hustle and get the jobs that don't really pay. and work your way up until you meet someone that'll give you a chance. And I know people that I went to school with and that I've just met, like out shooting videos for people, and I've seen that life and it just didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
Like I grew up, I had everything that I needed, but the financial status in my family was very low.
Right.
And I see people that are, in their 30s just out struggling and trying to make it in Hollywood and waiting tables and, doing all the grunt work that they can to keep the lights on until they finally land that next job that really won't pay much more than what they're already doing. And I just sat back and said, I know this is the route that I feel like I should go, but I've lived that life. I don't want to continue to live it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to figure out another way.
Yeah.
And it kind of slowed down my progress for a long time, just trying to figure out where to go next. But over the last several years, some doors have opened up, and I've kind of realized the path I need to go on now, and it's growing every day. So it's really just about finding where you fit in, I think, and then not giving up and following that path. And I think that's probably the biggest successful way to grow, I think. You know what I mean? I don't want to get stuck in those jobs that you don't really like just so you can say, well, I'm doing something. And
Right.
that's great. But for me, that didn't work.
And that is kind of the path that I took. I'm total opposite end of that spectrum. My younger years were spent in waiting tables and bartending and things of that sort. I did a lot of that just to have the freedom to, number one, not lock myself into some job.
Mm-hmm.
I always felt like if I just do a hustle like waiting tables or bartending or something menial like that, where you could make a lot of money but still have a lot of freedom. If the job don't work out, fuck that job.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So and you get gigs in the meantime.
Right.
I had gotten a job, like a real job, for a show on Viacom. And when I got the job, I had two jobs. I was working at like the Home Depot during the day, and I was waiting tables at Red Lobster at night. And I also worked at a recording studio in between the times that I wasn't at Home Depot or Red Lobster. I was doing all that. And then I got the job with Viacom, and I loved both of them jobs. But Viacom was like a Monday through Friday gig, paid like weekly, that type of deal. It wasn't like a hustle, it was a gig. So but I did the little menial shit in between time, not knowing that something like that was gonna fall into my lap. I just knew that I didn't want anything to tie me down. Was it the best or smartest decision? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I should have gotten a career job and then worked on my craft on the side. I always put the craft as a priority, and the job was the side hustle. You know what I mean? As far as that's concerned. So, and now I'm in a position where, right, for the last 6, going on 7 years, I've kind of just done my own thing, And, you have good days and bad days and good months and bad months and good years and bad years and stuff like that. But in the end, it all balances itself out, Just that level of commitment and being consistent, has allowed me to kind of just, live life by my own rules a little bit.
Sure.
Well,
and I think we live in a time now, I think we're very lucky that the entertainment industry is it's drastically changing from where it was when we started. And now people like us can be successful on our own terms without
Yeah.
relying on contracts and, funding from outside sources. We can do what we want to do and still get by.
And that's why I ask a lot of the artists or a lot of the people, producers or writers or actors or whoever that's trying to break in, particularly musicians though, if you would sign a major deal, knowing the type of deals that they're given in the industry now. And I'm not really looking for a right or a wrong answer. I'm just trying to figure out what the thought process is behind your decision whether or not to sign. Why would you? Why wouldn't you? The
Yeah.
pros and cons of both. And that way, because like you said, opportunities are now starting to open up. So, and with these opportunities, some people are doing it the signed way, while others are just kind of finding their own way. And I'm really just trying to figure out if, a contract is the proper route to go, especially with the deals that they're giving out these days, But I also think that we're in a position to where we can kind of write our own scripts a little
Right.
bit, We don't
Right.
have to rely on anybody to get anything done. I'm not getting it done because I don't have. That's not the excuse that I give. If I'm not getting it done, it's 'cause I'm a lazy fuck. You know what I mean? It's not because I don't have the tools and resources to make it happen.
Right.
Like
So that was one thing I wanted to talk to you about was
Mhm.
because I know there's a lot of artists out there that want, they've got some lyrics that they've written out and they want to put some songs together, maybe put an album together. Like, what's some good starter equipment? Like you talked a little bit ago about the broomstick being the first mic stand and the car speakers being your studio monitors.
Mhm.
But like nowadays, like this camera right here, you can shoot movies that meet the specs that Netflix requires for submission. And
Right.
when we were growing up, like if I wanted to make a movie, you couldn't
need
go out and
film.
like what?
Yeah.
Where do you get this camera at?
Yeah.
This thing's a $50,000. They don't
Right.
sell this at the Walmart in town,
Right.
But now they do, right?
Right.
Or you can order it on Amazon and it'll be there tomorrow.
Yep.
And so this stuff's becoming so cheap and so easily accessible that now we don't have to wait to grow. We can
No.
just
Grow.
save up a little bit of and just grow.
Mm-hmm.
Like from an artist standpoint who's got this song written that they're ready to record and they're just waiting for, RCA Records to call them up and go, "Hey man, heard you want to sing. We got a deal for you."
Right.
Like what equipment do you recommend starting with? What's that first step for your own financial investment?
I would say a computer. It all starts there, for me, because that's like the brains of the operation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You have to get a computer. I know you're a Mac man. I'm a Windows guy. You know what I mean? So we have this conversation.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, though, you just need a computer to roll, right?
Yes. That's where I would start. And to get started, you don't need a whole lot to get started, but you will need a computer. I'm not too familiar with making records on my cell phone and things of that nature, so maybe there's an application out there that you can do with your phone. But for me, I would start with a computer, and then get some software. And software, you can find something free, like Cakewalk is free. You can get some starter kits for like $100, with software, enough to where you can record a song. Now, if you're gonna take it serious, I suggest you go with pro software, the top tier, because like the topic that we're talking about, you're going to grow as an artist, and as you grow, you're gonna outgrow those elements, like the starter package with the recording software and things of that nature. But to get started, you have some free ones. You have some very, very inexpensive ones also. Like I'm a Steinberg Cubase guy, have been since 2000. So their stuff is a little costly, but their starter pack is like maybe $100. I heard they had a free version out there as well, and it's a great application. You're gonna at least need some headphones and an audio interface, a microphone, and a stand of some sort. If you have those things, you can make records and do what you need to do. And I think you can get a setup like that, like low end. You can get it bundled for maybe $250, and that's a bundle of some sort of mic, a pair of headphones, an audio interface, and a lot of times if you buy audio interface, there's some software that's going to come with it anyway. So you get the software for free, and do that. And then I'd start there. If my budget was limited, that's where I would start. Eventually grow into getting yourself a pair of studio monitors so you can better hear what you're doing in your mixes and things of that nature. But you can mix in headphones if your budget is low.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're not sure you want to invest a whole lot of money, $250, $300 will pretty much get you everything you need to get started. If you have a computer. Without the computer. So it's not very expensive at all to get started. But it can become an expensive hobby.
Oh, I bet.
And then it goes from hobby to expensive business. So, but that's where I would start.
So y'all have no excuses.
Right. Right. And it makes it with post-pandemic, making records has become different. People aren't in the studio with each other like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? A lot of things are being sent through emails and stuff like that. You can pretty much make records with people all over the world by sending your files through emails. We do it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of our work, using emails and stuff like that. So if you have your own, you can pretty much do what you need to do. I don't see why anybody that wants to make music doesn't have a setup of their own of some sort. I don't see. Why would anybody be going to pay to cut records somewhere else? At least get the reference done at home.
Like a demo or something?
Yeah. And, whatever file, like, for example, you and I, we were adjusting your microphone prior to us coming on today and getting the sound levels and things of that nature proper. Outside of something like that, as long as you can get the quality of the audio decent, you can send it to a mix engineer. You know what I mean? That a sound engineer that'll clean it right up for you and whatnot. I wouldn't worry about sound quality so much because, now granted, you want it to sound great. I'm not saying that you don't, but you don't need to go to the Hit Factory.
Right.
Cut your records. You don't need to do that. You just cut like a raw file, no effects on it or anything like that, just a butt-naked file, and send it off. The engineer can make it sound magical. You get a good take.
Well, and I would think, though, like if you're just starting out, you just went out and bought this starter kit and you're sitting down to write your song or record your song, it's going to take a couple songs, I think, until you at least figure out how to do it.
Right.
Like you're going to forget where the record button is on the screen. You're going to forget how to adjust the volume. Yep. Your microphone's not going to show up in the software. You're not going to remember how to go into the settings and locate that microphone again. Like there's so much that goes into it that I love the starter kit as a suggestion, because you just got to put the work in to learn the process of recording.
Absolutely.
Right. And that,
Yep.
I mean, that's a job within itself. But then it becomes second nature.
Yep.
You know, like you don't even, it's like playing an instrument. Like you sit down and go, all right, now I want to learn how to play the guitar. And you start thumbing through and you're trying to remember your chords and your fingers are starting to hurt. But then after you get to doing it for a while, you don't even think about what you're doing and your fingers just perfectly land where they need to go. And you got to get past all that so the writing doesn't get bogged down by, oh crap, I can't remember what button I'm supposed to hit right now. You know?
Yeah. Hell, you don't even need to play a guitar these days.
I know it.
You know, so it's insane. It's insane at how easy it is, but yet I still get people that'll call me, and I ain't mad at you, but they'll call and be like, "How much do you charge for a session?" Like, why do you need me for a session?
That's like calling tire discounters, be like, hey, how much to get a tire put on? Why don't you put your tire on?
Right.
Like, what?
You know, everybody got something in their crib where they can say mic check 1 2 1 2. Or
Yeah.
they should, like, you don't even make records and you have that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, why if you call yourself an artist, why don't you have tools?
Right.
You know, I can see when the equipment was expensive, you going out and renting time and things of that nature. You know, but hell, you might be bored on a Saturday night and maybe just want to write a song or something, or at least work on something. I don't know. You need tools for your craft.
Yeah.
You do. And if no other reason, just to make yourself more self-sufficient. You know, it gives you bargaining power. in a lot of
Sure.
ways. You know what I mean? So I don't know why anybody wouldn't equip themselves in this day and time.
Well, and I also think that learning that recording process would make you a better musician anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like when I went into school, I was like, I'm going to be a director and I'm going to do nothing else. And then I would go to the director of photography and go, hey, man, this is the shot that I want. And he'd go, we can't get that shot. I'd say, well, why not? This is your job. Figure it out. He'd go, no. We don't have the equipment. We don't have the experience. This is not a workable shot list. You need to go back at it. Do it again. Start over. And I didn't understand. And then I started taking on photography jobs and shooting cameras. I ended up buying my own nice camera. I remember that, my old Canon, right? And started taking over, holding the camera, setting up the lights, doing all of that. And then it made me better at creating my shot list because now I mean, I'm not great at photography, but I have an understanding of getting that shot now. And so when I'm writing out my shot list, I know what it's going to take to put this shot together. So I already know, okay, we can't do this. I need to rewrite it. So I would.
Don't sell yourself short. You dope with the camera, man.
Well, thank you. But, you
Yeah.
know, compared to other people that I've worked with, I still have a long way to go. But for a musician's standpoint, getting that kit, getting started, recording your stuff at home, even if you go to somebody like yourself to do the final recording process, I would just think that same learning applies to music, where you go into the studio ready to get that final sound, and you already know the process that it's going to take for your engineers and mixing and mastering. You're going to know what that process is like, and I feel like that will help you record the song that you want and write it.
I agree. And you don't feel robbed a lot of the times too, if you know what goes into doing ABC XYZ 1 2 3.
Right.
You know, you understand why people say, do, and charge the things that they say, do, and charge, because you have an understanding of what it is that they're doing. Especially when you can buy a little something and then go on YouTube and figure out how to maneuver this shit.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to me why people wouldn't invest a little $200, $300 into making something shake like that.
Sure.
You know.
YouTube is the reason why I don't suggest that artists go to college.
Right.
Like, I remember I was a junior and my teacher pulled up YouTube videos in class and was like,
Wow.
all right, so we're going to watch this and you're going to learn how to catch a car in motion. And then we'd watch somebody who sat at home and made this little video for YouTube to teach you how they got the shot that they got, instead of us going outside with a camera and a car and getting it ourselves. We're going to watch this guy who never went to school for this,
Right.
and figured it out on his own or got a job somewhere and they taught him. And then he's now teaching you for free. And you're going to use that in a place that I paid to be at.
Right.
Like,
Right.
just save us all this trouble and email me the link.
Yep. Straight
You
up.
know, like
Straight
when the first YouTube video that came up in class, I went, "Oh wow, this is online. Wait, why am I here?"
Right.
And by that point, I just need to finish and get this done and get out of here. But I was done with school when
Yeah.
that happened.
From
Now
from
it
a
was,
mental, emotional standpoint.
oh yeah, all the
Yeah.
way. Like, I no longer appreciate this university. Like,
And that's why I left school, man, because I after about 3 or 4 months, I had a gig. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know, like, what happened? What happened? What happened? I remembered we did a project. I don't know if you remember this project, but I had a project in the broadcasting class. And we had to go out and shoot some stuff, put some stuff together. So we put together a show. And we didn't even use the studio at the college. We were able to do our entire, whatever our presentation was. We did it without the use of their facilities, their equipment, their know-how, and my shit looked better than anybody else's in the class. I knew then that this is some bullshit. I knew at that moment. But it was like people that I was associating with had degrees in whatever it was they were doing. Now, in my head, I knew that I didn't necessarily need a degree to do what it was I had set out to do. But because I was being influenced by people that did, I'm like, well, maybe if I go and get this degree, it'll help. And then, but once the job came through after like 3 or 4 months, I'm like, no, I don't want to waste my time coming in here doing this dumb shit. And I'm not even using anything that y'all have. It's like, y'all not helping me at all.
yeah.
You're not. So, that was a realization for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that art is really something that you do need someone to introduce the tools to you. Like, if you want to paint and you love color, but you've never messed with acrylic paint before, you've only messed with watercolor, and you need someone, whether it's at a school or on YouTube or the employee at Hobby Lobby, to be like, all right, this is what an acrylic paint is. This is the types of brushes that you should use. This paper is best with it. And then you should just go out and paint.
Yeah.
Sure, there's different like methods of painting that will give you more results that are appealing to whoever's going to walk up and look at it. But you're not going to learn that until you do it.
Right.
And you might even come up with a style that hasn't been named yet. And then we don't even need the teacher anymore.
Yep. It's like my daughter. Right now, she's taking a culinary class in high school. And she does pretty good. But she's been cooking for years. So it's an easy credit. I understand that side of it. And they're teaching her some things about cooking that I may not know, in that regard. So get the lesson as far as that's concerned. If you can get the lesson out of the art of doing something. But me, I just go in and throw a bunch of seasonings on some shit, put some butter in it, and here we go.
Yeah.
But she's learning why this goes with this and those type of tips and tools and things of that sort.
Yeah.
And you need to be certified to be a chef, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know how that goes. I don't even know if she's gonna take up cooking or anything when she graduates high school. But I know right now she likes that culinary class,
Okay.
So I stay out of the way when it comes to those types of things. Just, if you can show my daughter something different that I don't know about cooking, cool. Let's make it happen. Just like with my oldest son, he was a part of like drama and theater and acting and things of that nature throughout from middle school on till he graduated from high school. He was a part of so many different projects. And I never got involved in anything that he was doing at school, even though I was probably more knowledgeable about what he was dealing with than the actual people that were teaching him. Because I wanted him to see another side of how other people do it. I wanted him to get that lesson. He might be able to bring something to me that I didn't think about, which respectfully he didn't. But but I no disrespect to none of them people out there. But nobody quite does it like Sway Low. Yeah,
Right.
I mean? But I wanted him to have something to compare it to, you know. So I didn't step on any toes. I didn't go to any of his instructors and be like, "Yo, you doing that shit wrong. Let me tell you how you're supposed to be." I stayed out of it, whether I agreed with their methods or whether I didn't, or whether I thought they were doing the right thing or not the right thing. I let him learn how the game is played from someone else's lens, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just kind of stayed out of it. So then that way, when you do decide to make it happen with me, if you do, you've already had this experience. Now you get to see it done the right way,
Right.
you know, respectfully.
Well, I know like when we do things our way, and not necessarily our way, but the way of on your own, it can be very challenging, right? And when you get that deal, when you were talking about like, would you take the deal or wouldn't you take the deal? There's some incredible success stories with people that took the deal, and then there's even more failures that
yeah.
just horror stories. But if you have that successful story, right, you can jumpstart into wild success financially. Your art's distributed all over the world, whatever format you're doing that under. And if you end up in one of those circumstances, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But if you don't go the deal route, good or bad, and you do it on your own, there's a lot of hurdles that you have to overcome along the way. And I feel like they make you better, right? Because you become stronger and tougher. You hone in on what it is that you're trying to accomplish, because now you've really got some skin in the game. How do you get past the burnout? Because after a while, you just get tired of the door not opening. And until you will eventually find a door that opens, right? But there are dry spells. And how do you get past that? How do you continue to try to grow even though it's just punching you in the face?
For me, Brandon, is, you know, I have to appreciate the small wins just as much as I do the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like if I get a gig that, you know, from a financial standpoint, if I get a gig that pays like a lot of money, that's great. That's wonderful. That's the reason why I do what it is that I do. But if I get a gig that doesn't pay a lot, the fact that the gig paid is still a win.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I take pride in the small victories just as much as the large ones. I don't take either of them for granted.
Right.
And I think that's how I'm able to keep my sanity in the midst of it. And the wins don't always have to be from a financial standpoint. I'm just using that as an example. But
Right.
If we win big, the big wins are amazing. But even if I win the little battles, the little battles, now I don't have to win them all, but you know, the few that I do, you know, that's still a good job, Diggs, and pat myself on the back and keep it moving, you know.
Yeah.
And I know another one is right around the corner. So consistency is key in all of this. You know, when I first got with my sweetie, You know, I'm a musician. So sometimes I make big bucks, and sometimes I can go without a check for 6 months. You know, it's the belly of the beast. But I know that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that's something that's gonna be a problem for you. I understand. You know what I mean? But that's my life. You know, I'm raising 3 children, so I've learned how to kind of budget to make sure that we don't go without and stuff like that. Even in those gaps to where the gigs aren't coming in as fast as I would like them to, I still budget to make sure that I can stretch the bread as far as I can until that next gig comes through, because I know another one's coming through. And the hope that knowing that another gig is gonna come through is another thing that keeps me going also.
Yeah.
And sometimes I gotta take the free ones to get to the paid ones. I understand the concept of that. You know what I mean? It's all a resume at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And just kind of, you know, I've been doing it so long to where I just know what comes with it.
Right.
I just adjust for it.
I think also sometimes we have to change direction in order to get past that downtime.
Yeah.
Like I consider this podcast a win.
Yep.
You know, financially, it hasn't covered the cost of starting it up yet. But when COVID hit and all of our resources dried up because no one wanted to do anything because they didn't want to get sick, we weren't used to working isolated in our homes, you know, and brainstorming and coming up with something to do. We completed an entire season.
Right.
You know, now we're on to season 2, and it's like financially it's not a win yet. But when I look at my resume, I've got 2 seasons of a podcast under my belt that I didn't have before, and that I didn't know I would have before.
Because of the podcast, I've been able to branch off and do some other things because we started the podcast.
Right.
More visibility, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. You know, the podcast, like you said, it hasn't paid what we've invested yet. You know what I mean? But it has paid in ways to open, like you said, other avenues, you know, for us to work in and whatnot. So it's not, I don't look at what we do on the podcast as a loss.
Oh, no, definitely not.
I don't. It helps what it is that we're doing for sure. It certainly does. So if we never make a dime on it, the fact that it gives us more content to put out there to show people that, hey, we're here. We're winning just with that alone, in my opinion.
I agree.
Celebrating the small victories. That's what I mean. You know what I mean? The little wins. The podcast hasn't paid us big bucks, but I've made some money as a result of the podcast.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
So you celebrate the small victories because you know the next gig is right around the corner.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So.
Consistency and never giving up.
Yep.
Sometimes we change direction, but if we keep going, I think we'll get to where we're headed.
Yeah. You know, I done dipped my toe in everything this game has to offer. You know what I mean? But when people ask me what I do, I tell them I'm a rock and roll singer.
Right.
That ain't all I do, but it's the most comfortable way I can describe myself.
Yeah.
I can't say I'm a podcaster, I'm a journalist, or I'm a writer, or I'm a television personality or a radio host. A singer is what I'm most comfortable with in describing my line of work or my occupation or whatever the case may be. Like, and as many records and albums as I've produced for people, even calling myself a producer makes me uncomfortable. And I have a ton of records under my belt. You know what I mean? So, you know, but singing, rock and roll singer, rapper, that type of deal, that's what I'm most comfortable at when I describe what it is that I do. You know? So, but it just doesn't stop there. I can do whatever. I'm in show business, so, you know, I'll yodel if the money's right.
Well, what do you think is the next step for you? Where do you think you're headed to next?
I was having this conversation last night, boss. Matter of fact, and I was saying, I was talking to someone, and I was like, I produced a lot of records this year, and who knows, next year I may not even produce a record. And they were like, "What do you mean, not produce a record? I can't see you doing anything else." And I was like, "You don't understand. This might be the setup, me producing all these records next year, so I can do something next year that's related to the music business, but ain't got nothing to do with making a record at all." You know what I mean? That's how my life kind of goes sometimes. If I have a radio show, there's a good chance that I'm not gonna make a record for a long time. So who knows what direction things will go into the next year. I'm gonna always be in the game as far as that's concerned. But to say that I'm gonna be producing records, I may cut an album next year. You know what I mean? And not work for other people. I may do my own thing. Or the podcast may blow up. Who the fuck knows? Who the fuck knows? But I'm still the record guy. I'm still a guy that makes records and whatnot. But I don't know what next year is gonna bring. I know what I do know is that I bust my ass this year.
Yeah, you did.
You know what I mean? So, and the things that I bust my ass with this year is all slated for next year. So I'm excited to see how everything unfolds for next year. And do that and continue to just work hard this year.
That's what I was going to ask you next. Does it make you nervous that you don't know the direction that it's going to go, how it's going to unfold, or do you get excited waiting to see where it takes you?
Well, I'm never waiting. I'll continue to work, knowing that something is going to happen is an exciting feeling. You know what I mean? But I'm not waiting around to okay, I did all this work this year. Now, what's gonna happen? No.
The red carpet will unroll.
Right.
I will be here waiting for you.
Right. No, I'm gonna continue to work next year too, probably as hard as I did this year. And if the path takes me into a direction to where I'm not, sitting behind a keyboard or a drum machine or anything like that, it's a byproduct of the countless amounts of hours that I spent this year sitting behind the keyboard and the drum machine and things of that nature. So I'm excited about the future in that regard, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna continue to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To keep going and stuff like that. And if next year takes me into producing more records, I love doing this shit. So that's no problem with me either. But I got a feeling that something else is gonna happen for us next year. I just do. I know all this work hasn't been in vain. I know that. You know what I mean? So, I'm excited, boss. I am, for sure. What about you? You put in a lot of man hours. The most impressive thing about you this year for me is that you went out and did this shit alone.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know how big that is. I guess because you're in the thick of it, you can't really see. But that is some hard stuff to do, man. That's hard to do for a lot of people. So I commend you. Even if you went on stage and bombed night after night after night after night, the fact that you go out by yourself is huge, man. People ain't got they ain't got them like that.
Huh.
They don't.
Well, just being on the podcast and seeing myself be in front of the camera, I don't know, just said, I guess I can do this, and then let's see what it does, what else I can do with it. And so I just went and got behind a microphone and said, hey, let's just try it and see what happened. And I bombed and ate shit and said, well, next time I won't mess up. And I went up the next time and I didn't mess up. And I got the laughter that I was looking for, and it's just been growing ever since. So
Absolutely.
It's like,
you haven't even been doing it like a year. So imagine, what kind of growth have you seen from when you started to where you are right now within yourself?
Oh, tremendous, man. Like, not even, I mean, really, like the fear of being in front of everyone has almost like vanished. Like I'm a hardcore introvert. Like
Right.
I don't even label it. It's just who I am. It's how
Right.
I live. It's what I do.
Yep.
I was talking to somebody last night about intro versus extro. Like my wife is a hardcore extrovert. She loves talking to everybody. So we'll go into a crowded place and I'll sit down and play on my phone, probably write something and not even pay attention to anyone else. And before the end of the night, she'll come sit down and tell me everyone's life story.
Right.
Like,
you see Connie over there?
You're
Like,
right.
who's Connie.
Exactly. Oh yeah, I don't care. You know, and that's just who I am. That's how I've always been. But like being on the podcast and editing myself and looking at myself, and I'm now seeing myself as I see talent that I record. That's a position that my face has never been in before. And so it made me comfortable with it. And then showing it to people, like, check this out. I'm on this screen.
Right.
And then other people that don't really know me, but through friends and connections have said, hey, I saw your podcast. Not bad. Oh, you saw it? Yeah. Such and such showed it to me. Oh, awesome. Cool.
Yep.
Thanks. And it just, I don't know. It just lit a fire under my ass. It just kind of made me comfortable with speaking. And so now when I go places, I'm still an introvert, but I'm not uncomfortable talking to people now.
Right.
Like new people that I don't know, I just wouldn't speak to them because I don't even know how to walk up and start a conversation, but I do now, and I'm comfortable with it now. And when I go on stage, like I used to stand by the side and be like, oh, he's going to call my name.
Yeah.
I'd be fine if he just called somebody else's
Right.
name. Like, you know, like, all right, coming up to the stage is Tim. Whew, that's not me. And I'd go sit back down. But now I'm like, I'm next. What do you
Right.
mean, Tim?
Absolutely.
It's my turn. You know? And so it's cool. Like that's where my growth has really been. I don't know that my jokes are getting better, but my delivery is getting better.
Right.
And like I would deliver jokes. I write scripts and I hand them to people and I go, here, go say this. And then I go back behind the camera and wait for them to be done. And now I have to go out and say the words. And
Right.
the people that I've been made friends with and friends that I brought along with me sometimes, they're like, you need to listen to the audience more. You don't listen. You just talk. And I didn't understand that because I was so nervous. I just need to get through the script that I wrote for myself. And now that I'm so comfortable speaking in front of groups of people that I now know how to listen. And that advice is something that I took in, and it's just making me more comfortable being on stage. And that's where my biggest growth, I think, has come over the last few months.
Does it transfer over into your everyday life?
Yeah, it does. That's where like talking to people that I don't really know has grown a lot because I am the guy that walks into a room and finds the table that no one else is sitting at and goes, all right, well, now I don't have to talk to anybody. And I go sit at that table. And it's just because I'm lost in my own head. I don't really know anyone else there. And it's just easier and more comfortable for me to just continue on with what I've been doing than have to go be vulnerable and speak to someone that I don't know. And it's not really a fear-based thing. It's just comfort and the way things have always been. But now when I go in and sit down, I notice that I'm at the table by myself and I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel right. And I've got to go find someone to talk to now. And so that comfort level of communicating with the world has just opened up.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Do you have any goals for next year?
Too many. I have a laundry list of things that I want to accomplish next year. Mainly being recording the sets that I've been doing throughout the year. I wanted to do it over the summer, but one of the other comedians was like, "Oh, bro, you're not even close to being ready for that." And I was like, "What do you mean? I think I'm doing all right." And then I watched some phone recordings and said, "Oh yeah, I still got some work to do." And so I've been doing that over the last couple months. So one of my goals next year is to actually get a nice solid recording so that I can promote myself with. And then I've got some other YouTube shows that are in pre-production right now. And so this consistency is keeping stuff out, keeping the schedule, keeping the
Yeah.
recording going, sitting down. I've never been an editor, but I'm editing constantly now. So I'm looking forward to getting through some of the stuff that I've been working on.
And as far as your camera angles, man, when the people that I work with see your work, that's really the first thing they compliment about you. And that's about 80% of the people. They're like, this guy has some great shots.
Awesome.
You know what I mean? It's that way. That's what that's the attraction. Your eye and your mind. You know, so don't sell yourself short, man. You are the bomb.
Oh, thank you.
You know what I mean? For sure. You need work done, Brandon is the man. You know. Final thoughts, bro.
Final thoughts. I think my ending topic is just the inspiration to be great, to continue to grow, work hard. One of the earlier episodes we talked about just being the best that we can be, and taking full advantage of that to be successful. And I think that applies to today's episode too, because you can't grow if you don't want to do it, and if you don't want to do it, why even bother?
Right.
And so you've got to work hard to get to where you want to go, and that's what makes growth happen. Working hard.
I say it all the time. Consistency.
Yeah. Well, it's taken a while, but you're finally getting through. He's like, no comment.
I appreciate it. But you've grown a lot since we first met. In a lot of ways, man. Leaps and bounds, you know. I'm just a lucky guy that we're friends.
Oh, same, man.
You know what I mean? It's real lucky. That's it, man. Close us out.
All right, man. Well, hey, thank you for checking out Peanut Butter Magic. I hear we got a candle we're going to be talking about soon with some hocus pocus in it. I'm excited to share that with you guys. So stay tuned, and we'll be back.
All right. Peace.
All right. Another episode in the can.
Yeah.
It's the peanut butter magic.